So hello friends, welcome to IQ Jam. So today we will discussing second chapter of NCERT Economics Class 12. This is National Income Accounting. So this chapter we will discussing today. So in this chapter, what we will discuss basically how we calculate, how we come at a point of calculate GDP or the aggregate income of an entire economy, just like India's economy. So how we calculate the GDP, national income, GNP, these all terms we will learn here. What are these and how we calculate these and different methods of calculating national income. So we proceed now. So basically, if you see any country, how it grows and GDP's growth rate, this wealth of a nation, it all depends on how they uses the resources, how the resources is transformed into a consumable or a productive thing in through the production process. So it all depends how we convert the resources we have, or sometimes we import the resources like some minerals, some coal. Sometimes for thermal power plant we import coal, some mines, some minerals. So this is thing how the petroleum crude oil we import, and then we transform it into other chemicals. So this is how we transform the resources through production process. It creates the wealth of the nation and it decides how the wealthy is the nation. It does not depend just only on the resources. Just like Africa has so much of resources that Latin Americas, but they are not prosperous countries. They are not wealthy. If you say they are not as wealthy as USA or the UK or other countries which do not have Europe, we do not have so much of resources. So it depends how you convert those resources. So resources in conversion of resources involve production process. Production process. What does the production process involves? There in production means we transforming the resources into a finished product output. So this output can be just consumed by consumer, just like we buy some fruits, some vegetables that which are produced by farmer on his field in his field. So sometimes we consume directly by consumer. Sometimes that those products are fed into another industry. Just like here, farmer produced cotton. Cotton is not just sometimes they sell it to we buy it directly also, but some of the cottons, most of the cottons, they sell it to spinning mills. These spinning mills, what they do, they again do a production on this process this cotton and produce yarn. This yarn is then this again they sell it to textile mill. Textile mill again makes some production process over this, and they produce a cloth. Cloth is their output. This cloth again is not just directly sold to the market. They sell it to market, but they sell it to another garment industry which make a ready to use cloth, just like the shirts, pants, jackets, saris, suits. So this kind of thing, the garment industry. So we see here there are four production processes involved. One is farmer in his field. The second is spinning mill. One, if you see spinning mill. Third is textile mill, and fourth is the garment industry. So there are multiple production processes involved before the product is consumed finally. So it happens means sometimes only one production process, sometimes two, sometimes many production processes are involved. So then we get a final good. So what is final good? Final good is that goods or services which is not that does not enter again into the economic flow. That is sold out and it passes out of the active economic flow. So just like this garment, this cloth, shirt, we purchase it and we wear it or we use it at our home. That it does not again enters into the financial economic flow. So then we can say that it is a final good. So it depends on the goods how it is used. If it comes out of the active economic flow, then it is called final good. Otherwise, if it is there in the if it is there in the economic activity, it is again the production process. We say it is an intermediate good. So I will see the intermediate goods. We'll see what are intermediate goods. So final goods are also many types, and basically two types we define it: consumption goods and capital goods. Consumption goods are like food, clothing, or recreation services which we consume immediately. As a consumer, we purchase it, a household purchase it and consume it immediately, maybe in 1 2 day or something near future. But capital goods are those goods which are used in the production processes again, but they are not transformed. But they are not transformed in the production process, but they are used in the production process, just like tools, implements, machines. So these are used in production process, but they are not transformed during the production process. Machine as it is, it remains as it is when it is purchased. It remains there, but it helps in the production of other commodities, just like suppose the sari or the cloth. We have a textile mill, we have a spinning mill, then machines are there, and which is used for the production of goods. But so these are called capital goods. Why they are called capital? Because they have they are the final goods, yet not final goods to be ultimately consumed. They are not ultimately consumed. Machines are not immediately they deteriorate. They are there for 10, 12, 15 years. So these are called capital goods. They are very important for the economic process economy, because if they are not, if there are no capital goods, then industries or factories can't be established. Because any factory, if you see a factory, if you see here, there are many machines are there, composed of machines which runs throughout the day, night, and which are involved with production processes. They are programmed somehow. They are used. If you see news or TV, you see industry or factory. Then multiple machines are there, which are operated by the workers or the laborers, human labor. They operate on this, and production processes carried on. So these are very important for any economy, because the economy depends on industries. Industry they have to set up, and production they have to do some production. So therefore, for production, for industry, we need capital goods. So these are also final goods, but they are not ultimately consumed immediately. So, but capital goods also have some lifetime. We'll see this depreciation later on. So, and consumer goods are also they another kind of consumer goods which we call consumer durable. What are these? This like television set we have at home, automobiles we have, home computer, PCs, mobile phone. You can say. What are these? They are not consumed immediately. They are not extinguished by the immediate or even short period. So they remain there for 5 years, 6 years, depending on the how we use it, how what is the lifetime. Just like automobiles, we have it for some of you might have your vehicle for 10 years, last 10 years, 5 years, 6 years. So it depends. It is not extinguished immediately. So these are called consumer durables. These are part of consumer use, but they are consumer durables. So we have learned final good. Then there is intermediate goods. As I told you, there are some goods which are output, firm produces an output, but these are into the market, not into the market, but they are as an input to another industry firm. So used by other products as material inputs. So they are the output of firm one. This is firm one industry one. You can say industry one, and this is industry two. So this is output of one becomes input of another industry. So these are called intermediate goods. Just like the examples are given, steel sheets used for making automobiles. So these steel sheets are produced by one industry or multiple industries, and these steel sheets are again fed into automobile industry, which they use steel sheets to make automobiles vehicles. Copper is manufactured by processed by one industry, and these are again fed as input to utensil industries, and they make utensils out of these. So here the final goods, these are called intermediate goods. They are not final goods, and they are not used in the calculation of economic activity output. We will see here why. So this is our final good intermediate goods. Now we have to measure the output of economy. So how can we measure? We need a common measuring rod. we need a common single point of reference which we can use throughout the economy. So that is money. So what we do, each of the output is placed as we assign some monetary value to output. So this monetary value we sum up all monetary value, all output monetary value, and this is the sum total of monetary value of diverse commodities, and this gives us final output. So different commodities, different firms are producing different output. We assign some monetary value to it, and then we sum up all the monetary values. We get the final aggregate output of the economy. So this is the way we calculate it. Intermediate goods are not included, as I told you. Only final goods are included here. Only final goods. Final goods only included. Why we don't include intermediate good? Because intermediate good, if you can see here, if we include this intermediate good here, suppose we calculate rupees 10, we included it here. This again become input to one industry, then output. Again, this output we include rupees, suppose 50. But this rupees 10 is already included here also. So if we include it, we calculate it two times, calculate into this one also, then we are including it twice. Here 10 rupees and here also 10 rupees. So this is double counting. It's like steel seat. If the steel seats we calculated, okay, this is monetary value rupees 10 is steel seat, here we calculated. Automobile is rupees 100. So if we use this calculation, then this 10 rupees is counted twice. Here also, and this 100 rupees also contains 10 rupees of steel seats. That's why we don't include intermediate good. It leads to error of double counting. Okay, you got it. Only final goods are included, and we calculate the monetary value of all the goods, not in kg or liter. We include just monetary value. Next are the two concepts, stocks and flows. These are the economic concept. Stock means also for flow. First of all, we see flow is what is specified over a period of time. We just like output. Output, we don't say what is the output. We say what is the output of the firm in a year or in 1 month, in 1 day. So this is period of time is specified. We are specifying 1 day is one period of time, or annually a period of time. Just like income, what is your income? So it doesn't make sense. It makes sense when we ask you what is your monthly income, what is your annual income. So that is specified over a period of time. So these are called flows which are defined over a period of time. Then what is stock? Stocks are which are defined at a particular point of time. At this point of time, we are saying what is the stock of the machine? What are how many machines you have? It means we are asking you at this point of time what how many machines you have. So they are there irrespective of specified time period. So machines will be there for years, and so stocks are stocks are those things which are defined at a particular point of time. And but a change of stock is specified over a period of time. Just like change of stock, how many machines you have added in 1 year, on 2 years, on 10 years. So this is change of stock. So change of stock, we specify a time period, and hence it is called flow. So change of stock is called flow. These are just economic concepts. When we see economic survey, if you see economic survey or other economic data, they are mentioned stock and flow. So it help you understand what are those terms. So here we see capital goods. So capital goods also have some lifetime, a lifetime. Capital goods have a lifetime. So during this lifetime, they undergo wear and tear, means aging. Suppose there is some fault occurs in the equipment in a machine. Just like if you say building, there is a lifetime of building. 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, the building will be safe to live in, to work on. After 25 years, we see that building's structure is very much damaged. We need to replace it, or we need to construct again it. So this is the lifetime of buildings, 25 years suppose. So this is we call buildings undergo depreciation gradually during these 25 years. So this is called depreciation, means decrease in the value, you can say. So the decrease in the value. So we for capital goods we deduct the depreciation, we calculate depreciation, what will be depreciation of a good capital goods. So from the gross investment, gross means gross value, if we subtract depreciation we get net value of a product. So net is equals to gross minus depreciation. So how we calculate depreciation? So here depreciation basically annually we as an annual measure. What we do, suppose we have lifetime of equipment is lifetime of machine equals to 20 years, just like here. So in 1 year how much it will depreciate? 1 upon 20. This much of quantity, this much of the goods will suppose will depreciate, will be removed, or will be this much of product, this much of the parts will be need to be repaired, need to be replaced. So 1 by 20 equals to suppose 5%. So if we say so in 1 year, this is annual depreciation rate. Annual depreciation rate. So suppose we need to know how much is the net value after 1 year. After 1 year, so if 100 is the gross value, then we decrease 5 equals to 95 is the net value after 1 year. After 1 year, net value is 95 rupees. So this is how we calculate depreciation. This is just an accounting concept. This is not actually real expenditure. This is just an accounting concept we use for calculation of the output. Next is the thing which economy should focus on, which of the good, capital good or consumer good. Which should be focused. So as we have seen earlier, capital goods are very important for economy. In an economy, if there is a limit, there is a limit of production, limit of output, limit of production. So this limit, under this limit, economy have to decide whether they have to focus more on capital goods or more on consumer goods. So in the initial stages, initial phases especially, an economy focus on capital goods more. Why? Because capital goods are very important for the economy. As we have learned earlier, capital goods produces capital industries produce capital goods, and these capital goods are helps in the establishment of other industries. Goods machines they are produced by the capital goods industries. They help in establishment of other industries. So these are important because we need to set up different diverse industries in different sectors. So therefore, economic focuses on capital goods industries more than the consumer goods industries. Just like example is given here, if you need to make a sari, so if you go for traditional weaver to okay, you make a sari, weave a sari, he or she will take 1 month, or sorry, months to make a sari. But if we see nowadays machines are available, so in machinery we see thousands of cloths, saris also are made in 1 day. So which is more efficient? Machines are more efficient. Machines saves up time, saves resources. Only maybe hundreds of machines are there, and 2-3 manpower we required to operate them. So machines are time saving also, resources also they are saved. Electricity, just in electricity we required. So these are the benefits of capital goods industries. That's why at a particular time, given a level of total output economy, it is to, if more capital goods are produced, less of the consumer goods would be produced. So more capital goods will be focused, economy will try to make more capital goods industries. And at later point of time, this also helps increase consumer goods. How? Because if one capital goods more industries are established, then we can see if more machines are established, then we can produce more consumer goods. If total output is higher, because capital goods, one industry can make hundreds, thousands times as much as a traditional weaver or human power can make. So total output will be higher in economy. The amount of consumer goods that can be produced will surely be higher. So definitely, if more industries can produce as much more than the a single factory or a single person. Therefore, we focus on capital goods, and capital goods increases the production of the economy, production or output of the economy. So this was the capital goods versus consumer goods. Now production and consumption also, there are production method we have seen. Some and then consumer household will consume the goods. So those two are related to each other. We'll see how it is flow goes on and how we calculate the income. So first of all, during the production, there are basically four kinds of contribution. Four kinds of contributions are there. What are those? Contribution by human labor. So imagine a firm or industry. Okay, here there are many machines are there. There may be some human workers working here to operate the machine, or cleaning staff, or manager, whatever they are. So there are some human labor are involved. They do their labor, and why they do the labor? They get wages there. Okay. Second, the contribution by capital. If we require to set up one industry, what we require? Investment, loan. Suppose loan, we require loan, or we require machines. For this, we need to repay in the interest. Interest we have to repay there. Then third is the contribution by the entrepreneur, owner. Entrepreneur means, you can say, owner of the industry, which who applies his mind. Okay, this industry I will set up. This is the distributor network I will set up. How this I will acquire the market. So this is the entrepreneur. He is applying his brain power, and what he get in return, he gets profit. The last contribution, but not the least, is the made by the natural resources. Just like here, there is lands are there, the inputs, natural resources, input raw materials, and what will give in return? Rent, or maybe cost of the raw materials, etc. So these are the four contributions, and these are the four payments, factor payments. We'll see what is factor payment. Factor payments by the firm, factor payment. So this is the economic production process in an industry. There are some inputs, these are some input, you can say, these are output by the firm. Okay. So if we see an economy, simple economy, here we have a model here. If you see a simple economy, we see, we assume that only there are some firms are there and households are there, only consumption. If all the income household have earned, they are earning, they use all their incomes on buying goods consumption, then we can say this model, we have made this model the circular flow of income. If they households uses all their money for consumption, then we can say that it equals to total production of the economy. Total production is equals to total consumption. I get my point. So this way this model is prepared by assuming that total income is used for consumption by the households. There is no leakage from system like that taxation or anything. We have ignored those all. So for the economy, so here if we see what is happening here with this figure, this firm has some earning, some money. They use the money, spend the money to buy goods or services from the economy, which are produced by firms, different industries. They manufacture goods, and these household use the money to buy the goods, and these firms supply the goods, supply to the household in return of money they receive. Getting my point? These two circles you have understood. This is a circle, one circle. Next is different earner circle. These from how they earn the money, they receive it from as a factor payment, wages, you can say, wages from, they are working in the firm, and from there they earn wages which they use to buy the goods. So this is the factor payment they are receiving. And why they are receiving the factor payment? Because they are giving some services. They are giving their labor work. They are working on this in this firm. So in return for their work, they are getting wages. These wages they are using to buy the goods, which are the output of the firm. So this is the circle, two circles. One is this circle and this is circle. So this circle we can measure the output. From this circle we have, if we measure the output in at any point of this line at A, we are saying expenditure method. Expenditure method means how much expenditure is done in the economy, total expenditure. There are many households are there, they spend their money, so total expenditure we can measure it here, which will be equal to this one. These two are equal. Expenditure equals to goods produced, so we can measure expenditure method here. B implies product method. Product method is what? Just like expenditure method. A is expenditure method. B is product method. Product method means how many products are there in the market. Total output we can calculate using total. This method we can calculate total output. Next is C. We can measure it here. This is called income method. Income method. What is income method? Income earned by factors of payment. Income, they are earning some wages, income. So this way here also we can measure the total output of the economy. So these are three methods of calculating national income or national output, aggregate output. This figure is defined and explained here. So point A, point B, point C we have seen. So what we have seen is a model of economy, macroeconomic model we have seen. In that model, as I told you, there are many assumptions. That is simplistic model. It is not actual model, actual economy. In actual economies, households do not spend all the money. They save also. In your home, you save it to account on in FD, fixed deposit or some other gold something. So they save also. There are also government taxes. So here we have assumed there is no government, but in real we have to pay some taxes also. There is also trade with the other countries. Exports are there, imports are there. We have not included there. What we have assumed that all the production in the economy is consumed by the consumers in that economy itself. So this one we have ignored. So this is the assumptions we have made to simplify the model and understand the basic thing. So do not consider that all as real model, but in economy, we many of time we make a model of economy and we arrive at a result. So first off, we see product value added method at point B. You can see point B. So we will measure how calculate the aggregate annual value of goods and services produced. In this method, we will calculate aggregate annual value of goods and services which are produced by different firms in the economy. So how we will do this? So here there is one example given. If you see, there we have assumed only two producers in the economy: a farmer and a bakers. Farmers is a wheat produces wheat, and bread maker bakery makes bread. So what happens? The farmers in this example, farmers make 100 kg of wheat, produces 100 rupees of wheat. 100 rupees of wheat, he sells 50 rupees of wheat to the baker, to the bakery owner, and rest 50 rupees he sell to the market. Okay, this bakery what they did, they use this wheat completely. Remember it completely. Will come later on this point completely and produces rupees 200 worth of bread in a year. So this is the output of bakery. This is the output of farmer. Now how we will calculate the value added, total value added? So total value added, if we see, we can add 200 plus 100, 200 rupees of bakery, 100 rupees of farmer. But this is not so, because rupees 50 worth of wheat is counted twice. As we have learned earlier, intermediate goods should not be using counting. So amount of 50 rupees, 50 rupees of wheat is not sold to the market. It is again used in the economic production, again in the economic flow. So we subtract this 50 rupees and from the bakery, and so bakery output is 150 rupees, farmers output is 100 rupees, so total output is 250 rupees. This is the correct aggregate output. So what is the formula? Value added by a firm of single firm, how much value it adds? It is value of production of the firm, production, total production, bakery, in case of bakery 200, minus value of intermediate goods used by the firm, minus 50 rupees. So 150 is the 200 minus 50, 150 is the value added by bakery, and 100 rupees is the value added by the farmer. So this is the total 250 rupees is the value added. Are you getting the point? And this 250 rupees is distributed among the four factors of production: labor, we give them wages; capital, interest, we give them; entrepreneur, they take the profits; and land, we give rent for land. So this is how economy works. This income is distributed among as per, not equally as per their requirement. This is distributed among the factors of production. So this is simplistic model we have given there. So if that is the gross value added, and as I told you, net equals to gross minus depreciation. We depreciation, if we subtract it, we get the net value added. Now we'll move it to inventory. Another concept is inventory. As we have learned earlier, the wheat was used by the bakery owner completely. Suppose, suppose the bakery produces 200 rupees of wheat, bread, and but he is able to sell only suppose 100 rupees of bread, rupees 100 rupees of bread. He is not able to sell. He is there, it lies there with him. So that is called inventory, stock of unsold finished product or semi-finished product of or raw materials. So whatever it is, when suppose he purchases 50 rupees of wheat from farmer, he able to utilize only 30 rupees of wheat. So 20 rupees is inventory. So this is called inventory stock variable, which is not a flow variable, it is a stock variable. So change in inventory, what is change in inventories? It is production minus sale. I get your mind. Production minus sale. Production is how much production? 150 is total production value added minus how much it is sale. Sorry, sale of in during the year, and minus of production minus sale of the year. It called inventory. So inventory, change in inventory is a flow variable, just like change in the stock is a flow variables. So similarly, change in inventory is a flow variable, and it is also called investment. We can say that investment in inventories, because we have invested this much amount in our raw material or in our finished product, and that is there with him, the fund, and he can utilize it later point at a later point of time. So now we will come to the final formula, how we calculate gross value added. This is equal to gross value of the output produced minus intermediate goods used. As we have seen earlier, this formula. So output produced by one firm and intermediate goods used by that firm. So if we see this output produced, its output equals also include inventories. Some are not sold to the market. So if we see the just inventories formula, from there you can see output produced equals to sales plus inventories. So inventory and sales, in change in inventory and sales equals output produced. So value of sales plus value of inventory, change in inventory minus value of intermediate goods. This will gives us gross value added. Net value added, as I told you, net equals to gross minus depreciation, whatever it is there. So gross minus depreciation is net value added. So we get the net value added in the form. And this value, gross value, we say it, term it at GDP, gross domestic product. It is sum total of gross value added of all the firms in an economy. In India, in Indian economy, all the firms, how much gross value they have added, it is called GDP. So this is one method we have used to calculate product method. Next we will move it to expenditure method. If you see the remember the figure, it is at point A. We are measuring it at point A. Here we are looking at the demand side. Demand side, how we are looking at demand side? Demand side, because here we are looking at the expenditure made by the households for the consumption needs. Expenditure is that part of expenditure which is undertaken not for intermediate purposes. Understand it? Not for intermediate purposes, but for the final final goods, where whatever the expenditure is undertaken. So if you see the farmer and baker one example, so here also rupees 50 of the farmer is are intermediate, is used for expenditure as for intermediate purpose. So therefore aggregate value equals to 200 final expenditure received by baker from the sale of bread, rupees 50 which is received by farmer for the market sale, not for the sale to the baker. So therefore 200 plus 50, 250, same amount we receive. If you measure, so here also we see same amount, same gross GDP, whichever method we use. So final expenditure can be a different account. First is the consumption expenditure. Consumption expenditure by the firm, maybe household which undertake consumption expenditure. Households we, so it is also included. They are also formed with different industries. Suppose industry uses biscuits, tea, coffee, AC, something to treat their guests. So that is also included in consumption expenditure. So this is one part. Second part is the investment expenditure, is investment on capitals, goods that are produced by the firms. The other one is the government expenditure. Government also make expenditure investment. They have made the consumption also, like government offices, we see tea, coffee, etc. ACs, table, chairs. Investment expenditure, investment on capital goods, government uses. And last one is the export revenue. So these all are part of the expenditure. So how we calculate it? We add up all these things to get the total revenue, total sum total of final consumption revenue which the firms earn from consumption revenue, investment revenue, government revenue, and export revenue. So now we have to, what we have to do it, we have to measure for the economy, only what is produced in the economy in the country. So we subtract imports, what is expenditure made on import of the imported goods. So CM denotes expenditure on imports of consumption good. So if we subtract this, we get what is spent on domestic firms. So because we are measuring in the economy, GDP is within the economy. So we subtract the consumption on of expenditure on the import expenditure. If we subtract, then we get the domestic expenditure. So in investment also we have subtracted. In the government also we have subtracted. So now we will get C minus CM, import component we have subtracted, and this is already on the export, we are only export we are counting here, so then no subtraction. So this is the final value. M is equals to aggregate import expenditure. How much expenditure is incurred by the economy on imports, whether it is import for consumption, whether import of capital goods, import by the governments. So this all, so GDP equals to sum of all expenditure. So this is the summation of all revenue. So this way we get the GDP through the expenditure method. The last method is income method. In this method, we see how much income is received by factors of production. Factors of production. What are factors of production? We have seen. One is human labor, which receive wages. Next is the capital which they receive. What is interest? Third is entrepreneur, which part they receive profits, and last one is the land or natural resources we get rent. So these are the factor payments. So if we add all these factor payment, we get the GDP. So we have added here, W means wages, uh, P means profits, gross profit, in means interest payment, and RI means rent. So this we all add these all things, we get the GDP to the payment method, to the income method. So if you can see this, these three methods are included here. Expenditure method formula is there. This is income method formula, just we have seen, and this is product method formula. So this is point B, point A, and point C of figure 2.1. So this way we have. So this is explanation with the same different methods: expenditure method, product method, and this one income method. So now we'll see other terms: factor cost, basic prices, and market prices. What are these terms we have seen? So basically, what in the economy in 2015 we have changed the measurement, and now we are measuring GVA, gross value added basic prices, and GDP at market prices. This is the official result, official data from the economy from our country. What we measure and we give to gross value added, we have already seen, is the value of total output produced in the economy less value of intermediate consumption. We have seen just first method, expenditure method. So product method. So this is that gross value added. So before we proceed on factor payment, factor cost, and market prices, we have to see two terms. One is production taxes. What is production taxes? Taxes which are imposed on the production method. Production taxes and subsidies are paid or received in relation to production. So production process in industry, production processes, there are some taxes just like land revenue. Suppose we have purchased a land to set up an industry. So this land revenue we have to pay. This is production tax, stamp duty, registration fee, etc. So these are all production taxes. And subsidies, we subtract tax subsidies. Subsidies which government gives. Suppose we are opening an industry in the backward region. So backward region, you see maybe state government gives some relaxation and land revenue in stamp duty. So we subtract these subsidies from the taxes. So taxes minus subsidies equals to net tax. Get your mind. So net tax we calculate here net production tax. So tax minus subsidies. Product taxes. What are product taxes? Taxes on the products, just like product with toothpaste, the mobile phones, television sets. What are the taxes? Excise tax we pay, service tax, which is now suppose GST taxes, export import duties. So these are called product taxes. Here also government offers some subsidies, and so taxes minus subsidies equals to net product taxes. So factor cost, what is factor cost? Factor cost include only the payment to the factors of production, like it wages, profits, which you have seen, and does not include any taxes. Means industry just output of the industry here. What are the total cost involved? So factor payments does not include any taxes. Does not include any taxes. Only the payment which is made to the factors of production, wages, profits, in rent, and interest. Market price, what is market price? Market price is that which where we add in total taxes, product taxes also, production taxes also. Means in the market, we go in the market. So what is the cost of products? That is market price. Basic prices is between factor cost. So factor cost and market price. In between there is basic price. This is the formula. This is the layout. It includes production taxes. Here in factor cost we include production taxes. Production taxes we include, we get basic prices, and if we include product taxes also, plus product taxes is also, we get market prices. This is the formula. Net product taxes, net GVA factor cost plus production taxes is, we get GVA basic prices. Equation production taxes is basic prices, and GVA basic prices plus net product taxes, we get GVA market prices. So basic prices plus product taxes is net product taxes is, we get market prices. So this is the formula you have to remember. Before moving on, then we'll move to some basic macroeconomic identities. So GDP is basically what is produced in an economy within the domestic economy. Means in the territory of India, how much is the production taking place during a year, and what we calculate only final goods, no intermediate goods, final goods or services. So this terms you have to remember. This term you have to remember every time that it is final good only within the economy, not outside economy and during the year. So within the economy, there may be foreign companies also. So we will include all those things, whether it is done by the citizen or foreigners. We will include all the things in GDP. There is another term, gross national product, GNP. So how we calculate GNP from GDP? GDP, as we have seen, it includes also foreigners. Suppose it is Korean car, Hyundai car factory, which also earns profit here. Means he has plant in Korean, India has a plant here in India. So if we deduct the earnings of foreigners who are working within our domestic economy, so suppose foreigners like this is a foreigner company. If we deduct their earning in from economy and we add earnings made by Indians abroad, there are many Indians who are working abroad. They have the factories abroad, just like ONGC, Reliance Industries, Tata. Many industries have their factories in the different other countries. So if we include those earnings and subtract the earnings of foreigners in India, we get GNP, gross national product. So this is the formula. GNP equals to GDP plus factor income earned by the domestic factors, means citizens of India in the rest of the world outside the country, minus factor income earned by foreigners of the rest of the world employed in domestic economy. So foreigners, what they are earning in India, we subtract it, and what the Indians earning here and abroad, we add it, we get GNP, national product. So this term is called net factor income from abroad. So from abroad, how much we are earning net. Suppose we have more earning from abroad than the foreigners what they are earning here, GNP will be more than GDP in an open economy. Net, as I told you, net equals to gross minus depreciation. So net national product equals to gross national product minus depreciation. Simple thing. So all these variables are evaluated in market prices. Market prices, we have seen what is market prices. Taxes are included. Market prices include taxes, as we see, production taxes also and product taxes also. And so in subsidies, we subtract subsidies. Net taxes means taxes minus subsidies. So we get net taxes. And if we need to calculate at factor cost, what we will do, we will subtract net taxes. Net national product at factor cost equals to market price minus net taxes. So this is one another important formula. Factor cost is equals to market price minus net taxes. Net taxes. What is net tax? Net tax is equals to, sorry, not here. Net tax is equals to tax minus subsidies. Getting my point? So this way, I suppose we have to measure NNP. So we put it here, NNP here also. So net national product at factor cost equals to net national product at market prices minus net indirect taxes. This is the formula here, and this is also called national income. NNP at factor cost implies national income of an economy. See, national income into smaller categories and we further subdivide it different subcategories. Personal income, undistributed profits, to different kinds. So here if we see personal income, we can see we need to know what is personal income of a household. We subtract the national income we have calculated. From there we subtract undistributed profit, which is not profit which is not distributed by the entrepreneur to their other firms. Net interest payment made by the households. Interest payment, we suppose we have taken some loans, so we have to make some payments. So that is the interest payment. Corporate taxes, taxes imposed by the firms. Transfer payment to the household from the government and firms. Transfer payments are received like subsidies we have received, scholarship we receive, pensions. So if we do this calculation, subtract all these things and include the transfer payment, so we get personal income of a household. This is just personal disposable income. Disposable means how much you can spend, which belongs to, means which you have your own and which you can spend on whatever things you want. So disposable income means personal income minus tax payment. Tax payment and non-tax payments upon we have to, some already the liabilities are there, interest are there, some other things. So if we subtract all your liabilities, we can say liabilities, we can say it liabilities. If we suppose subtract all liabilities, we get disposable income. Disposable income is whatever income you have with you, you can spend it anywhere you like. So this is disposable income. So these are the terms which are already seen in market prices within the economy. Whatever we see, non-resident, whether it is resident or non-resident, we include it. Factor cost means we subtract the net indirect taxes, less net product taxes at market prices. We get factor cost. Net domestic product means we get depreciation. We decrease depreciation from gross. We subtract depreciation. We get net. And factor cost, net domestic factor cost means indirect taxes we exclude. So these are our formula. We can summarize it here and you can remember it through this table format. So now we'll move to next topic, nominal and real GDP. So now we will see nominal and real GDP. These are just measurement of GDP at two different point of time, using two different base references. So real GDP is what we say that it has constant set of prices, means we have fixed a base year. Base year means reference year, you can say. Just like we measure height from a reference, you are 4 feet taller than so your flat is, maybe you can say flat is 100 square feet more than my flat. So this is a reference. Your flat is a reference. So this is same way. Base year is at a reference line, and through reference line we measure the GDP. Then we can say it real GDP. In the base year we have fixed prices of commodities, different commodities we have fixed. Okay, this is in this base year. If you take this base as a reference, then prices of goods and commodities in this base year will be taken as a reference, and whatever the increase taken plus suppose 2011 is the base year, and now we are in 2020. So 2020, what is the real GDP? So we see the base year prices is, according to this base year prices, what are the prices of commodities now. So that is called GDP, increase in GDP. Nominal GDP is at current prices, simply the value of GDP at the current prevailing prices. So simply what is the value of GDP at today. That is called nominal GDP. Here example is given there. In year 2000, it had, suppose bakery is there, only one farm is there, and in the country only bread is produced. So suppose in the year 2000, India produced 100 units of bread. Okay, 100 units of bread are produced. Price was 10 rupees per bread. So how much is the GDP? 1000 rupees. 100 into 10, 1000 GDP in the year 2000. In 2001, same India produced 110 units of bread, 100 unit to 110 unit at the price of rupees 15 per bread. So what is nominal GDP in 2011, 2001? Similarly we multiply again. 15 into 110 equals to 1650 is the nominal GDP in 2001 of India. Now we have to calculate real GDP of 2001 at the base price of 2000, at the price of the 2000. So how will calculate this? It will be 110. This is the output produced, amount of output produced, into rupees 10. Why we have include 10 only? Because 10 is the price in the 2000 base price. So include 10, 1100. This is the real GDP. So what is the real GDP? You see, increase in GDP or inflation is increase in GDP only 100 rupees is the increase. If you see real GDP, it shows 650 rupees is increase in GDP. But if you see real term, we can say only 100 rupees increase, because only 10 pieces of bread production. How much production increased? Only 10 pieces. The production has increased from 100 to 110 unit. Rest is the price of the arm. This is inflation only. So we have to subtract the inflation. So for that we only take base price, which is rupees 10. And there is one term, GDP deflected. What this shows? It shows inflation in the economy basically. So its formula is GDP nominal GDP by real GDP Nominal GDP by real GDP into 100. It's so GDP deflected. Deflected is it's just inflation, measurement of inflation. There are other indexes of inflation also. You might have heard in newspapers or something. Consumer price index. What this measures, they have a fixed basket of commodities. Means the government or the organization which is publishing CPI, they have chosen some goods or services. They have included made a basket of goods and services. Means a list of goods and services, and they are monitoring prices of these goods and services every year, and according to this they're changing prices of these goods. They are saying this is the inflation, this is the inflation of this year, this quarter. So according to this, it all depends on this basket of commodities. It does not include all the goods and commodities. In GDP deflector, we are including all the goods and services produced in the economy. But in consumer price index, other indexes, wholesale price index, which we'll see later on, next only. So these indexes include only some of the goods. They are basically representative, means most of the goods and services which are important and which are used in the production and consumption. So these are included in this consumer price index. These are not only one two goods; there are hundreds of goods are there in the commodities are there in the consumer price index. And next is the wholesale price index. So as you can see the names, wholesale price means the price. If you go in the wholesale market, suppose times you see the prices are different from the retail market, which is in your neighborhood. So why are they different? Because the retailer purchases their goods, take goods from wholesale market, and then they add their margin and sell to consumer, direct consumer to you. So if you go directly to the wholesaler, you see there is some very price differences are there. So similarly, if we measure price indexes or inflation at the wholesale point, we say it is wholesale price indexes. So they are different. They are different from the CPI and WTI, different from GDP deflector. So these are differences. As I told you, GDP include all the goods and services, whereas CPI and WPI includes a basket of commodities, a limited number of commodities. CPI includes prices of imported goods also, but GDP, as we have learned, GDP includes only what is produced in the economy, does not include prices of imported goods. And weights are constant in CPI, but they differ according to production levels of each goods in GDP deflector. So weights, we already fix weights in CPI. Means suppose manufacturing item, we fix okay 75% will be manufacturing, primary products will be 12%. So this way we fix the weights, and it doesn't change. But in GDP deflector, it depends on what. Suppose this year production of manufactured goods, some goods are more, some goods are less. So accordingly, GDP deflector will show. So next topic is how GDP and welfare. In this topic, we can say that whether GDP is a true measurement or a true indicator of welfare of the country or the development of the country. So this is not so. There are three reasons are given here that why GDP is not a true reflection of the welfare of the country. First is distribution of GDP. So GDP increases, no doubt, suppose GDP increases from 5% to 6% to 7%, but we see GDP may be concentrated in the hands of very few individuals or firms. It may happen only few individuals or few firms, rich companies, they earn, or maybe urban area, or you can say metropolis, they only get benefits from the GDP. They only contribute to GDP. Rest of the firms, rest of the rural area, suppose a backward area, they don't receive the benefits of the GDP. Most of the time, in India itself, we see the different states are there. In different states, we say GDP, state GDP is some states have very good performance, some states have very bad performance. In the state also, in some states, in Maharashtra, we see. In Maharashtra, there are some regions which are very prosperous, Mumbai, Pune, and those areas. There are some areas which are not so prosperous, just like the backward, they are also backwards. So that is the way. So we say the distribution of GDP is not uniform. So GDP is not the true reflection of the growth of the economy, welfare measure. Next is non-monetary exchanges. There are many things non-monetary which we don't include in the GDP. Just like domestic services that women performs, like the household services, the cleaning and the cooking, etc. Informal sectors also, many of them are without the help of money. So these informal sectors are not taken into account of calculation of GDP. So these are all not accounted in GDP. So we can say GDP is not a true reflection of the economy. Next is externality. Externality means refers to the benefit or harm a firm or individual causes to another. So which is for which they are not paid, penalized. So externality means suppose a firm, while refinery example is good example is even there. So while refinery they are increased the production, their production is increased, but they are also polluting the river nearby. Means while refinery are also polluting the river nearby, which can cause harm to the people who use it. The water is polluted, so they may fall ill. The health will reduce. The health will sick. They become sick. Pollution also kills fishes and other organisms. So the fishing community, the fishers, which earn their livelihood from this fish fish catching, and so they may not earn the livelihood so much money. So these are all negative externality which a world refining has caused. So these are not included in the GDP. GDP is not taking into account such negative externalities. So we can say GDP is not a true measurement of. If we reduce this, subtract this negative externality, we get a reduced GDP. So GDP minus negative externality. So this may be the real GDP, but we don't measure this thing. So that's why we can say GDP is not a true reflector of welfare or the development of economy. So friends, this was the chapter second, and I hope you like it, and you can share with your friends this video, and you can subscribe to the channel and be with the channel, and we'll be uploading next chapter soon. Thank you, friends.